Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, I'm nearing the end of my gay movie marathon, and I've been saving the best for last, but sometimes the best films are not the easiest. Mysterious Skin from 2004, the film by Greg Araki, I think is how you say his name. Adapted from Scott Hames' 1995 novel of the same name. It's a very interesting, disturbing, beautiful, strange film. It's about two boys who have a experience with a coach when they are around 8 years old. A baseball coach. I'm not going to use certain terms, obviously, thanks to YouTube. But we see them as kids and we see them as adults. And the adults are played by Gordon Levitt. What is his name? I can never remember his full name. He's got like 3 names. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I always forget his first name. And Brady Corbett plays the other guy, Brian. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, he's groomed for a long time by this coach. He's his favourite boy, and he processes it very differently from the other boy, where it's more of an opportunistic situation where twice he encounters this boy alone. The first time he's left after a baseball game rains out and his mother isn't there because the game ends early, so they take him home. And the second time he was lost on Halloween after he was bullied and his glasses were broken, and he took him, I think, to a field. Both times he dissociated, he lost time, he had very vague memories of what happened to him, he had a bleeding nose, and he eventually filled this with imagining he was abducted by aliens. He believes he was abducted by aliens, that's why he's got the missing time and these weird memories of blue light and being touched and all this stuff. So he spends years trying to sort of studying UFOs and stuff like that, and he keeps passing out when he's a child, having blood noses, bedwetting, stuff like that. Just, various signs of trauma and that. But his family, his dad does nothing. His dad is played by Hank from Twin Peaks, just like Chance's father in The Curiosity of Chance. Although he plays a bad father in this one, a neglectful father in this one. Now the Gordon, I always get his name wrong. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I always just call him Gordon. I don't know why. I love him. I think he's a great actor. He was, I think, 21 when he did this film. He would have been 22, maybe 23 when he did this film. They only had a couple of weeks to film it. They had no budget. Apparently he was having trouble getting films at this time, and he was caring more about the roles than the money. I'm not sure how he could ever have been hard up for a film, because he's brilliant. He's an amazing actor. He's gorgeous. I can't understand. I need to have a look at his career, but he ends up being gay. Obviously he was gay from the start and would have been gay either way, but this grooming seems to awake his sexuality much younger, and he becomes very promiscuous. He seeks out, because this coach disappeared after one summer, and he kind of idolized this guy. He believed he loved him, and he then sought out that type of man, the sort of daddy figures, the older sort of guys, and he would hook and cruise and sell himself and stuff like that. And eventually he went to New York City after a few weird encounters, including one with a victim of HIV who just wanted to be touched and stuff like that. Just a lot of weird situations. His friend who moved to New York along with him, played by Michelle Trachtenberg, convinces him to take a job at like a restaurant, and he does. But one night he's walking home and some guy cruises him and asks him if he wants to go with him. He unfortunately says yes. The guy takes him to his place, forces him to take drugs, and He is being really aggressive. He tries to get away for a moment. He goes to the bathroom to think for a second. He doesn't get a second. This guy breaks the door down and violently, you know what? It's one of the most violent scenes like that, and I can't use the R word. And I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is this little guy, and he's really skinny and twinky in this film. He's so skinny. This guy just throws him around, and it's just really horrible to watch. He like, it's, I can't even describe it. And he goes back to his apartment. The guy just dumps him somewhere. He goes back home. He's bleeding. He's a mess, and he ends up going home for Christmas not long after that. Now this kid has found this other kid who's trying to work out what happened to him, what this mystery was. He finds the photo and he remembers the kid, and he eventually tracks him down the day he leaves for New York, and he befriends his friend, who's this gay guy who's sort of following him around, in love with him. They become friends. They go to the same school, and he invites him to come over at Christmas so he can meet. What is his character's name? Brian is the name of the other boy. Joseph Gordon's character. Where is the Wikipedia's not always my friend. Neil. Right, okay, Neil. He wants to meet Neil, so he comes, and they eventually go, and he takes him to the house, and they go into the house. The people who live there now are gone, not there, and he explains to him what happened that night. That the coach took him home. He would use him as to get the kids into it by getting him. It's horrible. And he tells him all this, and it's all connecting. The things that happened. The blue light that he was seeing was just the lighting on the outside of the building. As he starts to realise that his nose starts to bleed, and he starts to get really upset, and then carolers come, and they're out the front, and they have to be quiet, and the film just ends with Neil basically saying, I wanted to tell him how sorry I was, but I couldn't speak. I just tried to telepathically communicate with him how sorry I was. And it's an amazing final shot above these two boys on the couch, and then it just slowly descends, and you rise up, and it's all black around the couch, and then it just disappears. It's just a really well shot, well acted, amazing film. It's disturbing in the way these two kids both process this experience. One basically falls in love with the guy who does this to him, and he, like, what would he have been like had he not had this experience? I mean, I think in some ways he would have turned out similar, but it changed him, and he doesn't see that. And the other guy, it really damaged him, and hopefully the character would have once he put the pieces together, would have found a way to, because this happens to people. It was a very controversial film. The way they filmed the children was they filmed everything separate, and the way they filmed it, they were never sort of in another shot with another actor, so they didn't really understand what was happening. So they didn't have to deal with understanding the sexual nature of everything. Australia tried to ban the film. They voted, I think it was 4-2, and I think it ran in America with no rating. It only made about $2 million. It wasn't a big hit or anything. Obviously, it didn't show in a lot of places. I mean, it's not exactly a commercial film, but I just found it really disturbing and beautiful and fascinating, and I've watched it probably 3 times now. I saw it in the cinema, and I bought it on DVD years ago. I watched it when I first bought it, and I think this is the 3rd time I've watched it. It's just a really amazing film, and I love Joseph Levitt. There's a few other films he's done which are really great. I'd love to meet him. I found it also disturbing on other levels. There are a few experiences that I've had that were sort of similar. I mean, I moved to the city when I was around the same age, and I encountered a lot of similar men. I wasn't hustling like he was, but I still got exploited and used in the same way that he did, and some of the scenes were kind of disturbing to watch. And I had that same skinny Twinkie. There's one shot where I'm like, that's exactly how I dressed. That's exactly who I was, even though there's like a good bunch of years in between when he was in New York City in 1991, because the encounter with the coach happens in 1981, and then in 1987 when he's 15, he starts to sort of do stuff, and then he moves to the city when he's 19. But yeah, glad I watched it again, but it was hard. I had to stop the film a couple of times. I needed a break from it as we got to the end, before the scene with the assault and him as an adult in the city, and then when he's explaining to Brian what happened to him and that. Yeah. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you've seen the film, let me know what you think of it. If you haven't, you should see it. It's brilliant, but it is disturbing. It is confronting, and strange and sad. Yeah.